2016, a new TV show hit the digital airwaves and needed a podcast dedicated to chronicling its adventures. An elite team has been assembled for this task. Unfortunately, the world's listeners have not heard of this wonder twin duo. And although they may not be known now, in the future they will be referred to as tomorrow's legends.
Whoa. This podcast mic is huge.
Oh no. Don't tell me you took some of that Vision Quest juice.
Aw, Harley, your face is just so cute. Can I touch it?
Oh, I dare you to lay a finger on me. It'll be the end of podcasting for you.
Podcast? Podcast! This podcast can't take much more of this, Captain.
Oh, that's it. I'm calling the Justice League.
And now, here are your hosts, the fleet-footed Flash and his hammer-swinging partner, Harley Quinn.
Hello, Legendaires. Welcome back to Tomorrow's Legends. We're here to cover Season 3, Episode 3, titled Zari. I am the Flash.
And I'm Harley Quinn.
And this time, we don't want to forget our dear companion, Gideon.
Hello, Legends.
Hi there, Gideon.
Hello.
So, how did this one go for you, Harley? Did we make a comeback after last week?
Yeah, it did. This episode was not quite as good as the premiere for me, but it was definitely better than last week, so.
Okay, good. Yeah, me too. I just, I think, well, I'll explain what was going on in my heart and mind after when we get to our rating. So I'll let you go first. What was your rating and overall impressions?
All right. I gave this 8 time dweebs. And this episode was much better. The legends weren't as dumb. There was a good bit of comedy. And I'm liking the Time Bureau. They're becoming an interesting foil for our team. And I like the dynamic. So we have kind of like an on-level, kind of always in our face nemesis almost, but without taking away from the overarching villain and like a big bad. So we've kind of got villains and foils all over the place, and I like that. I also really like the tie-ins to the Vixen series. I watched it today because I needed a rewatch to kind of refresh my mind on everything that happened. And I definitely think if you want to watch it, it'll give you a better appreciation for this episode for sure. It fills in some gaps, and we'll get into that later because I think you might have some issues surrounding the Vixen lore. So what did you rate it?
I'm going to give you a double because you're starting to appreciate the Time Bureau, and I'm still kind of on the other side of the fence with that one. But we'll get into that part. Yeah, and the whole Vixen thing, that's also coming a little bit later. For me, I gave it 7.5 sassy Gideons.
Nice.
Yep, much better this week. They must have fired whoever directed last week's episode, because it was still kind of leaving a sour taste in my mouth, and it was affecting me. I noticed going into watching it for the first time around, I wasn't quite sure about everything, and it took pretty much to the end of the episode for me to really go, that wasn't bad. And then by my second viewing the next night, where I start taking my notes, I actually enjoyed it a lot better. So the sour taste was gone, and my rating actually went up. So 7.5 is where it landed at. The humor was back to normal, no longer stupid, make our guys look like fools. There was good situational fun. Like, situational comedy is my favorite. I don't need slapstick comedy, and I don't need really try-hard writing comedy where they're trying to be funny and the jokes just aren't good. I like situational stuff, and that's what this episode had. And Mick highlighting the scenes with his dry bluntness, as always, everything seemed back on track, and I like that. I did like Zari. She seemed to fit in well. I liked the actress, the way she played the part, and I liked the chemistry it looks like she already had with most of the team members, so I think I'm looking forward to seeing her more. But it was Kuasa that I was disappointed in, and we'll get to that. Plus, there was a few still kind of dumb spots here and there that I hope we continue to shake off as this season finds its way.
Yeah, I'm sure that we will.
All right. Well, let's get into our episode. Before we get into our episode, we do have a tiny bit of news.
We interrupt this podcast for a special report.
Okay, so let's start off with some positive news because this hasn't happened for us in a while. We got a brand new review on iTunes.
Yay!
Yeah, I was actually able to sign up for, I don't know, some website program thing anyway. For one account for free, you can have them track your iTunes review. So anytime a new one pops up, it'll send you an email saying, hey, you got a new review, because I can't access iTunes reviews for some reason. I think because it's under your account. I can't see any of our reviews, so it's kind of weird. Anyway, this is awesome because Gold Gaga 25 from USA sent us this review on October 9th of this year. And I absolutely love it. She or he, I'm not sure. But they said, I just started listening to this podcast last week, and boy, I love it. I discovered your podcast because of the Arrow Squad, another great podcast. Your shows are insightful, funny, and overall a great time. I highly recommend the show to all those who love the Legends. Keep up all the fantastic work. And then she has a little hand clapping picture there. And that is fantastic. Gold Gaga 25, we cannot tell you how much we appreciate hearing that. So thank you so much.
Yes, thanks for writing in. It's good to hear your words. It's always nice to get a positive review.
Exactly. And on that note, we actually haven't brought it up in a while, so we wanted to remind everyone that leaving us a review and rating on iTunes gets us more exposure to a larger audience. And it also raises us up the ranks of shows. So please, we have over 200 listeners each week. Let's get some reviews and get us on top. There are a couple other Legends podcasts out there, so if you like ours the best, then let it be seen in iTunes by reviewing and rating us, and we'll show you the love, we promise.
Yes, please do.
And then an actual little tidbit of news that I found. On our show, every time the scene changes, remember, you notice we get that scroll of city names and years? And last season, I was kind of tracking it for one episode in slow motion to see if anything was meant by them. Mm-hmm. You know how it goes, it scrolls through and then lands on the current city that they're traveling to. Mm-hmm. Well, it turns out that during an episode, and I'm not sure which one, but I was doing some research on something, both Gotham and Metropolis were scrolled by on an episode. Mm-hmm. That means those cities exist in our timeline here on Earth 1, mm-hmm. which they also confirmed on Arrow last week with Gotham, that Gotham exists. So I found that really kind of exciting and interesting that Legends is even saying, hey, there is a Gotham and a Metropolis here on Earth 1.
Yeah, that is very, very cool. I don't think we'll ever get to see those particular heroes on any of our shows, but it's still really cool that they're acknowledging that they exist.
No, yeah, and I was discussing this with Cammy over on Arrow Squad a little bit, and I think even after discussing and thinking about it more, the way this CW universe would probably do Gotham and Metropolis, I would imagine that the cities are there, but maybe not the characters that we know them to be. Like, there may be a Bruce Wayne, but it just might be a regular guy, Bruce Wayne, because Arrow does... Oliver Queen did say Bruce Wayne over in Gotham. He could just be a rich businessman, and there actually is no Batman here on this Earth. And it could be the same with Metropolis. There might be a Clark Kent, but he's just a reporter or a farm boy or whatever, right? So it's hard to say. I mean, they might bring him around. They did bring in Superman on Supergirl, even though she's on Earth 38 or whatever the number is. There still could be doppelgangers here, so.
That's true. That would be interesting. I'd like to see if they do anything with that, or if it's just a fun little Easter egg.
It could just be a fun little nod, yeah. But anyway, that is our news for today.
We now return you to your regularly scheduled podcast, already in progress.
Let's get into the episode, shall we?
Sounds good.
All right, where do you want to start today? I think we're actually not going to be as chronological this time.
Yeah, I think the last two just felt really too much like a recap. So I tried to kind of tone it back a little bit and find some main points and some really good talking points. I mean, this episode made it a little easier for me because there was definitely a main storyline and then kind of a side storyline. So that will kind of focus our discussion a little bit. But the first thing I thought we might start with was the fact that we had a brand new intro.
Yes, we did.
So I thought this was very interesting. I mean, it's definitely appropriate. I mean, we have sort of a slightly new mission almost. I'm not exactly sure how to call this, but the way that Sarah kind of outlined it in the intro was, will they be remembered for saving the world twice? Nope. They'll just be remembered for breaking time. So it was good that they, I guess, acknowledge it and rework the intro. So I'm wondering if it'll kind of be a theme throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, I liked it also. So I'm wondering if Sarah explaining the situation as it stands at this moment in episode time, I wonder if we're going to get different characters narrating the situation as we go over the season.
Yeah, kind of like we did last season where they would switch up the intro that was just slightly different from a different character.
Yeah, I mean, last season they all pretty much said the same thing, just slight variants, but maybe this time it's going to be more, here's where we're at this time, and whoever it is explaining it. So, I mean, that could be cool. We'll have to see. It'll be something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, definitely. So we'll see how the intro evolves this season.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's dig into our main storyline. So our main story is going to revolve mostly around Zari.
Well, the episode was actually called Zari, so yeah.
Makes sense, right?
Makes sense.
All right. So I thought this was interesting that it was set just far enough in the future that we get to see another glimpse of the future, and it's still pretty dystopian. You know, it's got a lot of crazy things going on. And so I kind of wanted to look up just about Star City 2046 because I couldn't remember if the title of the episode was 46 or 56. So I thought it was interesting that it's about a 4-year difference between this season's Future Glimpse episode compared to season 1's Future Glimpse episode.
Okay.
So yeah, just like a quick little recap, and I've put a link out on our blog post if anybody wants to read the official Arrow wiki recap of this episode. But the basic thing was in City 2046, this was the version of the future where Vandal Savage was never defeated. So it's still kind of a military state, but it's a different sort of state. It's almost more like anarchy and less militarized. You know what I mean?
Well, it's kind of like the beginning because 2046 is when he wasn't defeated, and the situation was a lot different. Remember, he was sitting in on the council, and they were arguing over what they should do and what kind of, should the military take over and yada yada, whatever. So it's like this 2042, 4 years prior, is kind of the beginnings of that. It's like martial law is in effect. They're starting to kind of toy with that idea is should the government be in complete control or the military, whichever.
Yeah.
So
what's good?
Yeah, no, I was just saying, so whether that would lead 4 years from then would lead to the same future that we saw in 2046, or would it be completely different because Savage is gone?
Yeah, well, what's odd is that it's almost started on a similar path, but a little earlier. Because if it's 4 years earlier, but we're already in like a military state, whereas we haven't in 2046, we kind of hadn't gotten there yet almost. I don't know. It was different because I feel like Star City was like complete anarchy.
That's
whereas
true,
here, I guess we're in Seattle, but it's definitely very militarized. But speaking of being militarized, who was running it?
That's true. You know what? I just thought if in this episode, Jax lets all of the metas out, maybe that creates the anarchy and the military loses control. And that's how we get to 2046 being as messed up as it is.
I mean, we could. Supposedly, we were supposed to have erased that version of 2046 when we defeated Vandal Savage.
True. Okay.
Supposedly.
Well.
So we'll see. But it is kind of interesting that it's taking a similar path.
Yes.
Anyway, so that's what I took at.
But who do we find that's actually in control is a company called Argus, which we all know from Arrow.
Mm-hmm. I was wondering if Lila is still in charge.
Yeah. Well, you posed that question, and I was like, okay, well, this is like 30 plus years later, so that would put her, what I would guess, in her 60s. I'm guessing Lila and Diggle are at least in their 30s. So
True.
she's got to be at least in her 60s. So I don't know if she would still be in control all that time or all this time. It's hard to say. I mean,
True.
Imagine the what ifs. If she is, what the heck has happened to her to be totally against metas? And I mean, I don't really think Argus ever really was on the meta side, because we often saw in Arrow they weren't always in support of the heroes in the early seasons of Arrow. So it's hard to say if Argus just totally went the other way and say, yeah, that's it. Enough with the metas. We us regular people don't want to lose control. So
yeah, I thought it was really interesting, especially because we learn, and we can touch more on this a little later. But we learned that they're torturing these people in this prison.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure to what end, if they're just trying to torture them for information on more people, or if they're like doing actual experiments. I don't know. We didn't get enough of.
Yeah,
some insights.
It appeared from the two screenshots we saw, or two monitor shots. It looked like they were experimenting, kind of testing the limits of the people, what they could withstand, or how much they could take. That's kind of what I got from what we saw.
That's interesting. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So,
Oh man, crazy. But so another thing that happens early on, and I just kind of thought this was funny, was that the Legends, I don't know if they're tracking Gary, or they've somehow intercepted his distress call back to his team, because in the opening scene, we witness Kuasa kind of appear, and she takes out 2 of the Argus agents. And we find out that was the team escorting Zari, and Zari had just kind of like disappears at that point in time.
Yeah.
But I found it incredibly funny throughout this episode that they kept using him as comic relief. Like, I don't know why, but he was one of my favorite parts of this episode until, of course, he, called Agent Sharpe and went back to his own time ship. Then he kind of sucked. But
yeah, I'm trying to feel you, Harley, that where you're enjoying. It still was bugging me how much of a bumbling idiots the Time Bureau guys are, except for Sharpe. I just don't see any way that he could have stopped Kuasa from doing anything. Like, what was he going to do? He's there all by himself on a mission to stop her from killing. Like, if our own team of superheroes can't stop him, what is a bumbling Time Bureau agent going to do? They're not making me a believer of them being any authority worth listening to. I mean, I'd be with Sarah all the way, not taking the Time Bureau side.
Yeah, no, I agree. I kind of think this is the point. So we had, the last episode where our team got to be the bumbling, stumbling idiots. And so kind of liked that this week it was on the Time Bureau's side. So we got to see that, hey, they're not all perfect either, especially when they're coming up against metahumans, which I feel like they're used to dealing with anachronisms. So dealing with an actual meta is completely different. It's a whole nother ballgame.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, you drive a good point there, that we could be seeing the arc of our Legends team still kind of screwing things up, and the Time Bureau thinks they're all that in a bag of chips. But now we're going to start seeing the Time Bureau being unable to handle all these situations, especially, like you said, with metahumans or whatever, and it's going to prove that our team is needed because of their powers, and you may not like the way they do it, but they can actually get the job done where the Time Bureau is not going to be able to. So maybe that is kind of what the season arc is going to be. It's going to be that slow switch over who can actually do a better job at protecting time.
Yeah. And I think they're eventually going to have to learn how to work together, because they're kind of insinuating that the only way to defeat the big bad is going to be for them to work together.
Right.
That's what I'm getting from it right now anyway, though. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah. Well, then we found out that there's actually an anti-metahuman curfew in effect because of the Anti-Metahuman Act of 2021.
Yeah, so that's interesting because that's only 4 years in our future.
Yeah. I mean, that's an interesting little play because that affects all the TV shows. So what, is that something we're looking towards? Is that kind of a hint at what's coming down the road if all the shows last that long? Is that, is it going to come to that kind of conflict, humans versus metas?
I don't know. It's very X-Men for my tastes.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a theme that we've seen over and over and over again in those movies. Yeah. So I kind of wouldn't mind not having them kind of follow this path. I mean, I like it when they do it in slow doses or small doses, but I don't want it, to kind of evolve into the whole X-Men rehashing of the same thing. That just bothers me because we've seen it so many times, and I'm like, okay.
That's true. I mean, Marvel and DC have both done their own variants on that idea, so I guess we'll see. We'll see what goes on. I mean, even Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is doing it too, so.
I think that's why I'm feeling inundated.
Could be, yeah.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Okay, they've got this anti-metahuman curfew, and we've got that scene in the warehouse where they try to capture Zari, and in comes this little drone, and then in comes a bunch of Argus agents, and they basically say that the legends are listed in the metahuman registry as missing. Mm. Well, that hit me right away. I said, wait a second. Our team actually only has 2 metahumans, Firestorm and Steel. Everyone else is just human, like Mick and Sarah, and even Vixen. She uses a totem. So why would they even be on that list?
Yeah, I saw this brought up a couple times, and so I've kind of been trying to think about it since the episode. Okay. And the only thing that I can come up with, and you can tell me if you buy this or not, but it's working for me. So I'm thinking that it's called a metahuman registry, right? But it really includes everyone so that the government kind of knows everyone's status, whether they're a meta or not. So it's kind of like a military state. It's one of those things that when you have those sort of protections, quote unquote, you give up a lot, if not all, of your freedoms. So I feel like the government's using this as an excuse to figure out who's a meta, who's not a meta. And then, of course, our team, they're not dead. There's no death certificates. Well, I guess technically, except for Sarah, who's died twice. But anyway, we're going to gloss over that. So they're currently missing. So I thought that was kind of interesting because they're out of time. So I thought it was appropriate that they would be listed as missing, and kind of how I got around the fact that none of them were metahumans except for Firestorm and Steel was just that it was the government kind of just trying to keep tabs on everyone sort of thing.
So what you're saying is the registry has everybody on it, whether you're meta or just human. Everybody is in this registry, and the government basically puts a check mark in a box that you have powers or you don't have powers. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yes, Big Brother is watching.
Bollocks.
Exactly, Gideon, exactly.
Perfect.
I feel it. Yeah. Well, I guess. Yeah, I guess if you spin it that way, then I can buy into it, sure.
You don't have to buy into it, but it's the only way I could make it work for me. And you're not the only person that pointed that out. Several people on the Facebook chat immediately said, they're not all metahumans. So
yeah, I did see that. Yeah, I think that brought up quite a few red flags for people.
It did, but let's go back for a minute to Argus torturing metahumans, because I thought this was actually a great callback to the Civil War episode, because in this episode, Jax wants to change the future just like he wanted to change history in the Civil War episode. So he kind of takes the chance to do it. I mean, he's deciding to like release all the prisoners because he's not going to stand by and let this happen. I just thought it was very interesting that when it was his version of history, like an event that happened before he was born, he kind of had more reference for it. Whereas in this future that technically hasn't occurred for him when he was born, he's like, well, whatever, we don't have to preserve this. I'm going to let all these people go. That was interesting.
Yeah, that's a fantastic connection that I didn't think of it at all. So but now that you mention it, it makes perfect sense that he realizes that he felt kind of helpless back during the Civil War, and here he has a chance to do something about it, and it's in the future, which effectively shouldn't change history or change anything because they've gone forward in time.
Right.
So he can do something to help out here, and when they go back to their normal time, it actually shouldn't affect anything in the past or in history. So, yeah. Cool.
At least not for them, yeah.
At least not for them, yeah.
It's interesting because you kind of have to think of, what do you truly consider history? What do you truly consider future? Because that's technically different for several members of our team at this point. Zamaya is from 1942. Right. Most are from 2017, but now Zari is from 2042.
That's true.
How does that change things?
Which is kind of surprising. They're pulling someone out of their future to be on the team and go back in time. Yeah, this is interesting. So
that's exactly kind of what got me started thinking about it.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, we somehow brought that full circle to Zari. So let's continue. You got something about Zari right here. Yeah.
I did. So I wanted to talk about these fight scenes here so we were talking about in the warehouse where she kind of hacks that Argus drone that follows them. That's kind of how we got started on this whole conversation in the first place. So I thought it was quite odd so Zari leaves them, of course. Like, I didn't think that was odd. I thought that was, perfectly in character. But then Sarah orders her team to quote unquote surrender. And I don't know what this was like for you, but I was watching it live and they cut to commercial here. It's like Sarah's like, no, we need to surrender. And then it's a commercial break. And so like several of us were like, why are they surrendering? That doesn't make any sense. And so, 4 minutes later, we get to come back from commercial. Then Sarah winks at Nick. And, you get everything that happens after that. So I loved that as an editing choice because it totally faked me out. I know you don't watch it live, so I don't know if you got that same experience.
No, that's totally different because the way I watch my shows, it's actually commercial free. So it was one seamless, smooth scene. You just saw Sarah surrender and the camera panned left and then it panned right. And you saw her wink at Mick right away, and he's like, oh, like it was a seamless scene. So it was still enjoyable. I don't know if a commercial break would have changed anything for me watching that scene. So it was, I'll have to ask, there's a couple coworkers that watch it live as well up here. So I'll have to ask them maybe at work hey, did they cut it out there for you guys when you watched it, and see what they say.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see. I love that as an editing choice. I thought that was very well timed.
It makes me wonder with TV shows, who decides when to insert commercials? Is it the TV channel saying, yep, cut it here, we're going to insert a Tide commercial or whatever? Or is it does the show people themselves say, these are the specific commercial breaks we are allowing, insert commercial here, 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 and here? That's something I'm kind of curious about.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's probably a network decision, though, because they're probably looking for something maybe to be the most impactful. Because it's not like the commercials they're not evenly spaced throughout any episode. Like sometimes you'll watch the first 10 minutes before a commercial break. Other times, like this episode, we got like 2 minutes and then it cut like away to a to the intro, and well, maybe it wasn't quite a commercial break, but it cut to like the Legends, screen that came up. So I'm not sure, but I feel like maybe Network might do it for Impact. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know,
That's
but
probably
maybe
a good
somebody
guess.
else does.
Totally. In that scene, though, did you notice? And I think they almost wanted to show it when they're all starting to give up and everyone's putting their hands over their heads. The camera 3 times panned past Katie Lotz's back. Did you see her shoulders? That girl is bulking up. Holy cow.
I'm not going to lie, I did not notice, but many of them on that show are very in shape.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, crazy.
that does not surprise me.
I mean, way to go for her. That's awesome.
Yeah, well, she does a number of her own stunts, right?
Yeah, that's what's fantastic about the actress. She actually does all the training and most of the fighting herself.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
If you follow her on Twitter or Instagram at all, she's constantly posting behind the scenes practice videos and training sessions and stuff, and you see her in there with the stuntmen doing everything. So it's pretty cool. That really solidifies her as a leader of this team, because that's awesome.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Yep.
All right, but this fight scene. Okay, we have to talk about this fight scene because everything about these two scenes put together just totally faked me out, because I honestly thought there was like a huge editing issue, because you kept seeing Mick's gun and it would like make the sound, but there was no fire. And then I just realized that it was because he was just one step too slow to be shooting the people, but it was so funny.
Could you imagine that big of a editing screw up that it slipped through all the production's fingers and nobody noticed that there's supposed to be fire in that sequence? Can you imagine how? Oh my God, people would be losing their jobs over that. Yeah.
Right? That's why I was like, this has to be intentional. I was like, but what? How come it has the sound effect? I guess. But anyway, it totally faked me out. It was pretty funny.
Yeah, got me for a second too, until I saw the frustration on his face. So it was pretty funny. Pretty funny to see Mick just not able. All he wants to do is shoot. Yeah, but even though he's a pretty good fisticuffs fighter. So it was pretty funny.
He is. It's hilarious that he doesn't get to use his gun until I think it's over halfway through the episode before he actually gets to shoot someone. So I thought that was pretty funny.
And again, it still brings back the old debate we had. What setting does he have this flame gun on? Because if is he just roasting Time Bureau people and Argus people, or is it just on some type of extreme heat setting where it, kind of burns them a little, or it's just so hot there and they fall to the ground because they can't take the heat? Like that. I can't imagine the team running around just killing people and he's just, like I said, roasting them,
lighting them on fire. I honestly don't know. Yeah. I could see it going both ways. But
right. Well, speaking of Rory.
Yes. I think Mr. Rory has developed a little crush on Zari, or at least he looked really impressed after Jack sort of read off her credentials / rap sheet.
He totally was impressed, yeah.
Yeah, so I liked that for once. Like, he was kind of calling the shots here because he's a criminal and she's a criminal. So Sarah's like, Rory, what would you do in this situation? Where would you go? And I really liked that. They were respecting the fact that he actually was the best person to know what was happening.
Exactly. And they've called on him for that before. So it's just nice that he gets to step up and use his experience. So, but I think he, especially after that scene later in the episode when she tornadoes herself out of the prison scene, he was totally digging her at that point.
Oh, yeah.
He's like,
for
whoa,
sure.
What an exit.
Yeah, he was super impressed by that. So,
yeah, definitely.
Oh, man, that's great. But, all right. Well, speaking of that scene, man, we're on it with the segues tonight. I like this.
This is good.
We're doing good.
Segue
right.
twins, activate.
Oh my God. Terrible. Anyway.
Terrible. Yep.
So Zari agrees to be used as bait for Kuasa because at the current moment, I can't really recall why though. Do you remember why? Are they just trying to find her because she's the anachronism or the rogue time traveler or whatever?
Why?
And so
Who's trying to find her?
the
our
legends
team?
are. Yeah, we're trying to find Kuasa just because she's like a rogue time traveler and we need to stop her.
Yeah. But, yeah, what was the initial point that they first went after her, though?
Gary again, coming back to him, he had kind of a throwaway line where he said that, I don't know exactly the words he used, but something to the effect of, we intercepted a time traveler or saw a time traveling signature, unauthorized time travel, I actually think is what he said.
Yeah, there you go. Unauthorized time travel. So how are they actually tracking that?
That is the question. And I agree. I want more information on that.
Yeah.
But we need more information in general. Anyway, moving away from the Time Bureau for the moment, let's get back to this business of them helping her break her brother out of prison.
Right.
Because eventually we learned that her brother's dead. So that was just totally a line to get them, I guess, to get her into the prison since that's what she failed at before, which was why she was being held prisoner at the beginning of the episode to begin with. So she's just after what I think she calls it an amulet, but it turns out to be a totem similar to the one Amaya uses, actually. And I did find more information about the totem.
Awesome. And you're going to fill us in, right?
I am.
Okay. Later?
Because we have some notes written down, and you had some stuff, and it ties directly into some stuff that you said. So,
yeah.
Do you want to explain your take on it, and then I'll just kind of back you up?
Well, it ties into what I said about her in our preseason kickoff episode that Zari can control the elements and become super strong and tough. So maybe we just saw the first of them being wind control, and maybe more will develop. It's kind of like we're witnessing her origin story here because she just grabbed that amulet for the first time because it used to be her brother's. Mm-hmm. So you've got Kuasa being only with water control. I wonder if this is kind of like an Avatar, the last Airbender idea. They all control only one element. So you got Kuasa with water, Zari's going to be air, and there's probably someone with fire and earth out there somewhere. That's just an idea that they could possibly go down, but from what I read about Zari, she can control all the elements. Maybe we are just seeing her origin story here, and Kuasa knows this and wants to stop her from gaining that power, or knows about the power and she wants to steal the amulet for herself so she can have more than just water power.
Yeah, no, see, that's interesting that you said that Zari's supposed to control all the elements. So this comes back to the Vixen animated short series. So in season 2, and actually at the very beginning, they confirmed exactly what you just said. Each one of the amulets, or the totems, I guess I should probably call them all totems, there's one for each element, and then there's the 5th one for spirit, and that's the one Amaya and Mari use.
Ah, okay. See, there you go. Totally makes sense. I just pulled that right out of the air without even knowing that. So
yeah,
okay, that makes sense.
So you're dead on. So the thing about these totems is, and I'm going to go into Kuasa's particular one a little bit more. I'm saving her for the very end because I want to talk about her at the end. But we've seen, between the two series, we've seen most of the totems. I think the only one we haven't seen yet is Earth. So Kuasa is water. And then there's some evil general, and he uses the fire totem in season 2 of the Vixen animated series.
Okay, we haven't seen it on Legends, just on Vixen.
Not on Legends.
Okay.
It was only on Vixen. And I believe, and then Mari actually destroys that particular totem. And I think technically Kuasa's totem was destroyed, but it does appear that she has turned into a meta, I think, probably from the way that because we're going to have to get into more to her later. This is why I want to save her for the end. So I'm going to skip over her. Yeah. Because there's a lot going on there.
Right. Just to say, before I forget, I never saw her wearing any type of totem at all in the episode.
No, she's not. Okay. She's definitely a meta at this point. Yeah.
You're teasing us.
I am.
Let's move on, you big flirt.
I know. Okay, so we're gonna cover the end at the end, and we're gonna take a little side trip into Amaya's little vision quest.
Okay.
All right. So I just have to say that most of these scenes were hilarious, and it was a good bit of comedic relief for some of this stuff. We have the opening scene where Amaya summons a spider while she's asleep, and so she kind of sleepwalks herself onto the ceiling, which I just found very amusing.
It was kind of Exorcist creepy looking to me at first.
Well, yeah, because her eyes are glowing and she's like stuck to the ceiling. It was very Exorcism of Emily Rose.
Well, the position she was in, if you ever saw the director's cut of the original Exorcist movie, the girl walks down the stairs backwards like that, like a spider, and it's creepy.
Well, it is Halloween, so it's good timing.
True.
But that was crazy. So, of course, I mean, this leads Dr. Stein and Nate to wanting to study her like a science experiment. So they're both scientists, I guess, after a fashion. I mean, Nate's a historian, which is not really a scientist, but they're both like, we need to figure out a way for science to fix you, and, let's go examine you and blah, blah, blah. And she's just like, dude, this has nothing to do with science. It's a mystical totem.
Yeah. What? I mean, she's like, I'm sitting right here.
I know.
I don't know. Stein actually, for the first time, bugged me this episode. He seemed kind of grouchy and not himself at all. He wasn't his normal excited about science stuff. And I found that a little bit weird. He seemed cantankerous. I don't know. There was something about him.
Yeah, no, he was super grouchy this episode. He's been grouchy all season, and I'm not kind of thrilled about it.
Yeah.
So I don't know what his deal is, but apparently her insistence that her powers are mystical, which they are, gives Nate an idea on how to help her. Because at first he's like, we're on a time ship, let's go back to your village. And she's like, no, you're not screwing up my village's history. And so he figures out that there's apparently some special root that you can make into a tea, but it's highly hallucinogenic. Mm-hmm. So they both drink some special tea.
Yeah, and this is where we get... this is probably one of the funniest performances of the actor playing Nate. He did such a good job. It just kept getting worse and worse, but it like funnier and funnier, worse and worse. He was making his own situation worse, but it was getting funnier for us. And I actually laughed more the second time watching because now I was kind of prepared for it, and it was way funnier the second time. He just did such a great job because for a lot of the scenes he was actually by himself. Now that's really hard to pull off comedy when you're alone in the room, and imagine him, he's got the whole camera crew and everybody watching him and he's trying to be funny. That's tough. So good job on him.
Yeah, he was hilarious. That was probably some of the funniest stuff I think I've seen on this show, period. I mean, I was laughing out loud at every single scene he was in. It was just so funny. I think my favorite part of the whole thing was when he goes, I really love this show.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, no way. He didn't just say that. It was so awesome.
Well, you're going to appreciate what I'm choosing for our cover photo this time.
Yes. Oh, man. All right. Well, Nate aside, I mean, he was hysterical. But the whole point of this was to help Amaya. So while he's off, doing his thing, trying to drive the ship, she has a vision of her ancestor, kind of.
That's what I thought right away, but the lady didn't seem to know who she was. Away.
She just says that she represents her entire bloodline. It's very mystical, very, you're in the world between worlds and blah, blah, blah. It was just very mystical.
Yeah.
But she's the one who kind of helps her understand what's happening, and she's going to help her with her control issues with her totem. And so there's 3 key things that come out of this whole vision quest. I'm just going to list them off real quick, and then we can kind of talk about each one of them. So the first thing was kind of what I mentioned, that she visited the world between worlds, which I just thought was interesting. I was kind of wondering what it was.
Did she actually say that?
She did.
Okay.
That is almost a direct quote.
Okay.
Her totem strength is growing as the threats that she must face become more powerful. So I'm guessing Kuasa and Malus.
Yeah, that to me was the key point that was said.
Yeah, that was definitely the key point, because it gives her an explanation, and it also tells her that she doesn't need to be afraid of it, that she needs to embrace it.
Yeah, and it's a decent enough explanation as to why these things are happening to her, and I thought it was pretty cool. It might not only be Kuasa and Malus, there could be everything else that's going on. There's probably more than one threat that's growing, and therefore her power must grow as well to be able to face it. So yeah, it made sense. I was okay with that.
Yeah, and then kind of the last thing was just that she can't face the threat alone, and that the girl needs her protection, which we assume is Zari.
Yeah, and I'm wondering about all of this. Why or how are those two linked? I mean, does their ancestry go way back somehow? Is it just because of the two totems, which I'm thinking now maybe is what it is? If there's 5 totems, they each have one, then that's why they're linked, because they have to work together. So that kind of just is coming to light now. Ding, there's the light bulb.
Yep, that's what I was saying. The Vixens stuff definitely filled in a lot of blanks for me.
All right, we got a cartoon to watch later, because I never got to get back to it. So yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely worth the watch for sure. So
I first told you that.
I know, and now I'm telling you
that.
Like how this comes back.
Yes.
All right, well, let's dive into Kuasa then, and finish talking about her and like these totems and deal with all of this.
Did you really, really mean to say, let's dive into Kuasa, being that she's a water-powered?
I'm amazing, apparently. No, I actually, seriously, no pun intended, but that's hilarious.
All right. Kuasa, what do you have for us? Because you did quite a bit of research here. Here's Professor Harley digging up some stuff for us again.
Okay, so Kuasa is now a meta with water powers, which is different from the animated series. So in the animated series, in season 2, she has the water totem, because the whole point of season 1 is that her and Mari are fighting back and forth about who should have the spirit totem rightfully, because she's the older sister. So she feels it's her birthright, but their mother basically rescues Mari and takes her away from the village and leaves her with the totem. So there's kind of a rivalry there, even though they don't know each other at all. And so that was all of season 1. And then in season 2, she picks up the water totem, because it turns out that Mari actually needs her help, because this evil general that kind of destroyed their village and killed their father, he has found the fire totem, and he's using it. So he's basically burning Detroit to the ground. And so she needs Kuasa's help, and Kuasa knows where the water totem is. So she gets the water totem. Now, what's interesting is in season 2, she's definitely using a totem, and she's not a meta. However, she gets basically more or less vaporized by the guy using the fire totem, including the totem, and her. So I think that's how she became a meta, possibly.
Huh.
I think that plays into her resurrection as a water meta, essentially.
Okay, well, that ties into how she got resurrected then at the end of the last episode. So she got fried, basically, essentially turned to steam by the fire totem.
Yeah.
She was gone. She was actually dead. So, but, well, maybe not. Maybe she could never reform again. And whatever that cloaked figure was had the magical, mystical ability to reform her, allow her body to become solid again. So maybe she actually wasn't dead. So that actually ties into what we saw in her coming back. Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah, so that tied several things together for me there. I think I mentioned this earlier, but another thing that happened is at the end of season 2, they do destroy the fire totem, so it's completely gone. So the one Zari has is definitely the wind totem, and to my knowledge, no one has seen Earth at all. So that may come to play in our season here.
Interesting. Now, does that any of the cartoons or the history that you just looked into, does it explain at all why Kuasa would be after the wind totem right now?
She's power hungry.
Okay.
And I think the spirit totem, I think that one is supposed to be the most powerful. They don't actually say that, but I feel like it's alluded to possibly. So that's why I think, and Kuasa's just power hungry. I mean, she even says when she gets the water totem, she's like, oh, well, this will be good for second place or kind of something to that effect. So she definitely she wants more power, and that's why she's after it.
Okay, and that, if you saying the spirit totem was more powerful, that actually also ties into this episode where we saw the legends catch up to Kuasa, and then Vixen steps forward to face her. Kuasa throws a water attack at her, and Vixen throws up what looked like an elephant head to me to deflect it. And Kuasa was like, "Oh, I see." Like she recognized the power and realized, okay, I'm in trouble here.
Yeah, and she was confused because it wasn't Mari. She's like, how?
Yeah.
And then she's like, oh, I can't kill you because you must be related to me. And if I kill you, I kill me. So that's kind of the backstory on Kuasa, which was a lot of information. So do you want to kind of dive into like some of the things that actually happened with her throughout the episode?
I'm still really, maybe I can, I don't save that for part of the nit, but I don't understand how does she time travel if she's just a water spirit or has the power of the water totem? How does she time travel? I mean, we saw her use that little stone and it kind of lit up and poof, she went. Like, did the cloaked figure give that to her? I don't know if they meant to not explain that to us yet.
I think they meant to not explain it to us.
Because I was wondering about that. It doesn't quite make sense to me, but well, I guess we'll see. Yeah,
I don't know if she got that from Mollis or if that's another Zambesi tie-in. I don't know. It could be one. It could be both. It's hard to say.
All right, well, she faces Sarah in that scene in the bar and basically makes Sarah look like she's in training still.
Yep, exactly.
It just tossed her around. Like, what? I'll let you say what you want to say first.
Well, I'm wondering how much we don't really know anything about her training because I guess they don't fill this in the Vixen series. So I guess we just have to assume that she's gathered this type of training, through all of her years of experience doing whatever it is that she does. But I was like, that she like pretty much manhandled Sarah, and if she can toss around League of Assassins, she has to be well trained. But then again, we've had a couple, I don't know, Sarah's been taken down a little too easily for my taste this season, so I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, and this is kind of a bit of my nitpick as well, because especially in that fight scene, I wasn't impressed with Kuasa, like, at all. Okay, the water power is cool. They made it look cool, and she's got some neat things with it. But her hand-to-hand fighting style, the way they made it seem like she was just toying with everyone, but it didn't look believable to me. She didn't look badass enough to be able to handle Sarah like that and make the rest of our team look stupid. They just did the choreography of it, her performance of it, the physicality, none of it worked for me. It wasn't believable in the fight sequences. So I'm like, and I'll get more into that later. But just on that particular fight scene alone, I was like, no way, there's no way she beats Sarah there. I don't know. That's my feeling.
Yeah, it did sort of leave me scratching my head a little bit.
Yeah. All right, but then, so staying on Kuasa, she tracks Zari and Ray back to the little sanctuary hideout that they had, where Zari was hopefully waiting for her team.
Yes. Now this is an interesting point that I want to bring up, and I don't know that I actually wrote it down, but I did. Oh no, I did. Well, I'm sort of mixing things in some of my notes from later on, but so in this particular scene, at some point, she tries to kind of drown Ray.
Yeah.
Which was really interesting because in the season 2 of the Vixen series, he knows who she is because he's a part of helping Mari try to save Detroit from the fire dude.
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't know Ray was in there. Cool.
Yeah, so he's in there and he's holding Kuasa in a very similar fashion to the way that she ended up kind of sneaking behind him in this. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And he had almost a throwaway line earlier in the episode saying, "Oh yeah, I fought a water-based villain once. It wasn't pleasant." And I was like, I wonder if that's what he was talking about, because I couldn't think of any other water-based villains.
Yeah, it must be. Because I was thinking, okay, well, we've never seen it on this show. When did he fight a water-based villain? So yeah.
Yeah,
well, that must have been a tie-in.
That's it then. Mm-hmm. So that's that tie-in.
Yeah.
Anyway. I wanted to bring that part up because that was interesting. But let's see. So as Ray's he's trying to radio for backup, but do you want to jump into the part where the Time Bureau has tracked down the Waverider with their giant time ship?
Yeah, well, we could jump on that. To me, it was like, where the heck did that ship come from? It looked like some souped up battle cruiser from Star Wars. Did Rip go into the future and build one, have one put together for him? Why do they need one? They can just open doors to wherever they need to go, so why do they need this big laser shooting time ship? I was a little bit perplexed by that.
Confused? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I don't know. Boys and their toys, I got nothing.
Yeah, well, he wasn't even there. Where was Rip? He wasn't even around this episode.
Nope.
So, I don't know. Let's get some fan theories on that. Why would they need such a big, heavily armed time ship?
Yeah.
Unless it's part of the preparation for the big bad that's coming. I don't know.
Maybe. I guess we'll see. Maybe this person can manipulate time since she's sending... I guess I'm just assuming it's a she, but they're sending Kuasa through time, so someone's got to know how to do it.
That's true. One little fun thing I noticed, though, in that scene with Ray and Kuasa is you got a really, really good look at his suit when he basically filled the screen from the shoulders up. And he's got a little atom symbol on his forehead. I've never noticed that before.
Is that new? Because I hadn't noticed it either, but I did notice it in this episode.
I think it's new because they've gone out of their way to make sure we know what the symbols are for each character, because we've seen that exact atom symbol. So I think that's new, having that emblazoned on his forehead, and I thought it was cool. It actually looked really cool.
Yeah, I thought it looked cool too. I don't remember seeing it before, so
no, I don't think it was there. Yeah, just pull up any scene last season with him in a suit. I don't think it's there.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Yeah, interesting. So, we'll have to do some double checking. But...
Cool.
All right,
what's next?
I've got a question about Dr. Stein. Do you think it is feeling in character for him to be pushing back so far on the Time Bureau? Because every time they encounter them, he's always like, well, we should defer to them and we should listen to them. And they really know what they're doing. He's done that every episode. And by the time we got to the end of this one, it was starting to feel like he was a broken record.
Yeah, you see, that's why I was annoyed with him this episode for the first time. I just didn't like seeing him like that. Why he's being like that, I don't know. And this, I don't know. I don't know if that's leading to something down the line for him or what. I mean, we didn't even get any scenes with him and Jax together this episode at all.
Oh yeah, no, so, not really at all, did we?
What's going on there? Yeah,
I don't know. Well, they had to introduce Zari, so that took up a lot of episode time.
Very true.
But anyway, yeah, so that it's bothering me. I can't tell if it may not necessarily be out of character, but it's definitely starting to feel overdone. So, but
Yes.
anyway, I also, with this Time Bureau stuff, I really liked that Sarah actually stands up for Zari. I mean, she's not technically one of their own, but I do like that she wasn't just willing to kind of throw her to the dogs and leave her to die. And Ray to die.
Exactly. And the way I kind of phrased it is that I think Sarah and the Legends team, they realize that Zari isn't trouble herself, but she's caught up in some trouble. And they want to go help her out.
Yeah. Yeah. That's definitely a key distinction, I think.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And we've pretty much covered the rest of this stuff that I have written down.
Right. Yeah, we did, actually.
Yeah. Do you want to jump to the closing scene?
Sure. Yeah, quick? Let's do that.
All right. So our closing scene is Ray. Poor Ray.
And I had no idea until he said, "I'm Ray Palmer." I did not have a clue who this was that we were seeing.
I actually thought it was Gary.
Did you?
I did. I really, truly thought it was Gary. I was like, oh, they're going to give him a backstory. No, it was Ray.
Well, yeah, go on. This scene, it was an odd scene for me.
I agree. It was odd. He's polite to a fault, which is Ray Palmer. But was that it looked like a gremlin.
Gremlin? All I saw was eyeballs. Where do you get gremlin from?
That's very similar to a scene in Gremlins.
Okay. I was thinking panther or some kind of four-legged beast. I was picturing, if you remember the old movie Ghostbusters, those two big demon dogs that were near the end. That's what I was picturing.
I am the key master.
But yeah, I am the gatekeeper. But my initial thought at that point was, what a dumb kid. I mean, he's in a dark tunnel. There's something snarling and growling with glowing eyes, and he reaches out to that creature and asks its name? Really? Come on.
Yeah.
But as to what it is, I'm kind of having a feeling that it could be the evil that Rip has been warning about or talking about that Sharpe won't reveal. I'm wondering if it's hunting the Legends when they are more vulnerable back in time.
Ooh, yeah, that would be a nice callback to kind of... We've had a couple callbacks to season 1, so this would be another one. That'd be interesting. Yeah. I kind of like that. I didn't think of that at all. That's a good theory.
That's my guess. I don't know what else that could be.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's a solid theory. We'll have to see next week what happens.
One little thing I wanted to point out. Did you notice the minor swearing escalate this episode?
Definitely. In all of the shows.
Yeah, well, that's true, but I'm wondering if it's because we have a little bit later of a time slot a bit, or it's CW just trying to push their own boundaries a little bit. But I mean, ass clown and bitch and part of my language, but there was quite a few, minor swear words being used. Yeah.
Yeah, on here and The Flash, where it's not been as prevalent. I mean, this house is bitchin'. Come on. Like, what?
Yeah, exactly. Strange. So, I don't know. I'm not sure what that is all about.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, a little bit of language definitely does not bother me. I found it kind of amusing, but it does actually feel slightly out of place.
Yeah, I would only expect it out of Mick or Sarah, actually. So it was,
Yeah, exactly. I was surprised when we got it out of a certain character at the end of this episode.
Yeah. But before we get to that, there's something here, a little bit of Adriana Tomaz or Zari
I did a little
Tomaz?
bit of comics. Uh-huh. Yes, I did a little bit of comics digging.
Okay.
So there's not specifically... I don't think there's a Zari Tomaz, but there was an Adriana Tomaz who is Isis. Right. And so I think this is who they've alluded that this is kind of Zari's comic analog would be Adriana Tomaz. And I thought that a lot of the references to her, I found this very interesting, is that they're all in the Flashpoint timeline. And we are also technically in a Flashpoint timeline.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a cool little tie-in.
That's a neat little connection. Exactly.
Yeah. And then the only other thing is that I don't think she's in the comics a lot, although I understand there was a 70s TV show about Isis.
Which is kind of funny. Yeah, she gets a TV show and nobody ever heard about her.
I know, but she does. Her first appearance in the comics was in 52, Volume 1, Issue number 3, called New World Order, which I'm not familiar with that at all. It seemed really interesting from the synopsis.
Well, that probably ties in to, remember what I said in our preseason episode when we talked about her coming. She was married to Black Adam, which is Shazam's mortal enemy and all that. So I'm sure that's where all of that is. It has to do with the Shazam and Adam storylines.
Yeah, I think you're right. I read, I kind of like looked at the brief mention of like who's listed in this particular issue, and yeah, that's definitely it. So there's links to the DC Wiki page for both Adriana Tomaz and this comic issue with her first appearance, if anybody would like to check those out.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome.
Do that. All right, well, let's get to our nitpicks, shall we?
Yeah, let's do it.
Form of water.
All right, I'm kind of curious what you came up with for this episode because you seem pretty positive about it all the way through.
I did, but I only rated it an 8.
Yeah, but
and I don't know. I don't feel like I had like a solid reason to rate it an 8. It just felt like an 8 episode. Does that make sense at all? So I guess, yeah. So I guess my nitpick was kind of the fact that they were allowed to change the timeline in the future. I mean, we've made such a big deal of it from last season about how we need to preserve the timeline, but that's only when we're messing in history from our perspective. I mean, we even get the reminder from Gary in this episode. So I thought that it was weird that as long as it's a future that our team hasn't lived in, it's okay for them to start changing things. It felt odd. So I don't know if it's just a matter of perspective, because Gary was of the perspective that even that future needs to be preserved and that we shouldn't mess with it. So maybe that kind of lends more back to your theory of the Time Bureau being outside of time.
Yeah, and then it makes you wonder is there alternate futures or...
Right.
You know, depending on what our team does, if it changes the future, that's not... Even though it's everybody's future, it won't affect history. Is that allowed? Yeah, it's interesting. I wonder if they'll go a little more into that.
Yeah, I mean, it won't affect their particular history, but it would technically affect someone's history. Like, it would affect Eobard Thawne's history, because isn't he from like 21 something?
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, curious. I don't know. We'll have to see.
That was my nitpick.
Yeah, a minor one at that, but it's more of a question than nitpick. Like,
yeah,
and I can't even really counter it. So,
all right. Well, why don't you delve more into your nitpick? I'm hoping I eased your mind a little, though.
Well, I think you did kind of answer some of it, so you might even just kind of nullify everything I'm going to say here. It just really brings me back to Kuasa, and that she wasn't working for me this episode. I just want to get some more backstory on her, and if that's in the Vixen cartoon, then I guess I have to go watch that. But there's probably, I'd say 70% of the Legends viewers that have not watched the Vixen cartoon, so they might be in the same boat as me.
Yeah.
But other points that she didn't work for me is she kind of reminded me of Savage, just showing up at times in the timeline and foiling the team, and everyone is scared of her without even knowing anything about her. It just kind of felt weird. She also didn't seem that threatening to me or anything to worry about, except the fact that they're blatantly trying to, watch out for Kuasa. Oh my God, it's Kuasa. But I wasn't feeling it. They didn't sell it for me that she's a big deal to worry about. So,
yeah, you definitely get a more ominous vibe from her if you watch the cartoon, for sure.
Okay.
And especially because like I watched it so recently, like I feel like it's a little bit more fresh in my mind. So yeah, I kind of have a better appreciation for how evil she is. So you should, yeah. If you get a chance, everybody out there, give it a rewatch. It's on the CW Seed, so you have to sit through some commercials. But to watch both seasons 1 and 2, including commercials, takes 1 hour of your time.
There you go.
That's it.
Not long at all for a whole 2 series. Yeah, there you go. All right, let's get into some quotes, shall we?
Yep.
Shape out an eagle.
All righty. Funny quotes of the week. What was our winner for last week, Harley?
Our winner was Sinking Feeling.
How about the North Atlantic Ocean, April 1912? I hear the Titanic had amazing food.
Absolutely not. I refuse to set foot on the Titanic. Whoever built that ship ought to be shot.
Yeah, I kind of figured that one would win. It's just funny how they keep poking fun at themselves, the actors.
Absolutely. I love the constant references to themselves and their previous work.
Exactly. All right, so what you got for us this week? This was a pretty fun episode. There must have been some tough ones to pick from.
There were some good ones, I will say. So the first one we have is I'll Be Back Again.
Oh, you need to say that in the right accent. I'll be back again.
Zari Tomaz?
Come with us if you want to live.
Yeah, I used that one once.
Come on, let's get out of here.
That one was good.
Yeah, that was fun. That's our bromance boys just having fun.
Yep, you gotta love it.
All right, what's next up?
Third time's the charm.
You guys are time-traveling superheroes?
Yeah, we've actually saved the world. Twice. Not that we're counting.
Really? You saved the world?
Twice.
Then why does it still suck?
Just for the record, dealing with that messed up police state of yours, that's on our to-do list, so.
I just loved the blunt. Why does it still suck?
Why does it suck? And that's probably why her and Mick are going to get along.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
All right, what's number 3?
Into Darkness.
Where's Pretty?
Nate, how are we doing with that rescue?
I'm giving her all she's got, Captain. The ship can't take much more of this.
Actually, Dr. Haywood, the engines are still idling.
Then why does it feel like my face is peeling off?
Yo, you high or something, man?
You have no idea.
Just the way he looks at the camera. You have no idea.
Yeah, that was pretty funny stuff.
Oh my god, I love that so much.
Well, that's pretty good. Do you have a fourth one for us?
I do.
I can do better than that, Captain.
Oh.
Oh.
Okay, Gideon, you actually have a quote for us?
Yes, Captain.
All right, well, let's hear it then.
Well, this isn't a warning, it's a promise. If I ever track you down again, you and your band of idiots will be exiled to the dawn of time. Whatever leniency Hunter gave you is over.
What a bitch.
Well stated.
Oh, well said, Gideon. Well said. That was actually pretty good.
That was great.
I think that moment, me and Patty just burst out laughing. And we both said, "What? What did she just say?"
I know. I wasn't sure if I should pick it for a funny one because I was afraid you might have it for a serious one because of everything in front of it.
Oh, I see. Yeah, no, that one was priceless.
It was great.
But we do have a honorable mention, one that we just couldn't pass up, and I don't know if you're gonna include this one in the voting poll or not, but it's just too fun to let go by, right?
You can't not mention this. We're calling it alternate life.
You helped me break my brother out of the Argus facility where they're holding him.
Prison break. I'm in.
Of course.
Because it's not an episode of Legends without a reference to Prison Break.
No, and that's 2 references to their other jobs outside of the show, which is kind of funny in one episode.
Oh my god, I know. I died laughing on the couch. My husband just groaned. He's like, "Really?" I was like, "Come on, it's funny."
Cool. Well, those are some good ones. That's some fun stuff this week.
Yeah. All right. Well, why don't we roll into the more serious scenes of the week?
Again, which was hard to find. There wasn't a lot of serious, like actual heavy emotional stuff happening. So I had to find some scenes that, again, were making me think about things a little bit more. But before we do, the winner of last week was Something Scary This Way Comes.
We got a new problem. Rip has been hiding something from us. There's a greater evil coming. Something even the Time Bureau is afraid of.
What can be worse than an immortal Egyptian demigod?
Or an evil speedster.
Oh, I'm afraid of the time, boogeyman. I'm literally crying.
That's funny that one was the winner.
Yeah, that was honestly probably one of my least favorite scenes of the episode, but it's I like the quote of it, but I don't know, that was one of the things I didn't like about last week's episode.
Well, again, it could be the music at the end of it. It's the foretelling of impending doom that they're all laughing at right now. So I think maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, I definitely liked the quote version of it better than when I watched it on the show, for sure.
Which is funny.
All right. Well, what's the first one for us this week?
The first one I called Captain's Verification.
Why would we help those ass clowns? I mean, that's not our job.
Hopefully that little time dweeb learns his lesson.
Agreed, but the last time I checked, we help people who are in trouble.
I don't.
Touche, Mick.
Yeah, see, might have a little bit of humor in it, but I liked it because it's Sarah kind of, standing in command saying, hey, we help people, remember?
Yeah.
And then, of course, Mick, well, yeah, he really has only helped himself or the team. So, yeah.
Yeah. Cool. That's a good one. All right. So, number 2.
Steel Truth.
There's no algorithm for what's wrong with me. It's my totem. It's the legacy of my ancestors.
Great. So let's go talk to your ancestors. We're on a time ship.
See that?
So we are.
Yeah, I mean, really, when he said that, I was thinking to myself, yeah, exactly. If you've got problems from history, go back in time and get answers. Hello, it was plain as day, simple.
Well, but she does have a point. She doesn't want to mess with her village's history. I can respect that. Because if she messes with it too much, she might not be born.
I think I had to agree with Nate for some reason. I just yeah, we're on a time ship. Come on. Anyway.
Oh, dear. All right. What's number 3?
Time communists.
You know what I don't get? Argus. In 2016, they weren't
idiots.
Well, I was going to say they weren't trying to control the city with killer drones, but...
Any authoritarian organization always goes bad. Always.
Which means it's only a matter of time before Rip and his Time Bureau turn into the Time Gestapo.
I like that one.
Yeah, and I was actually going to call it Time Gestapo, but I didn't know how to spell it, so I said Time Communists. But, I mean, that one just, it rings so true to reality and what goes on when you let any one power have too much power. It never goes well for everybody underneath them. Nope. So I really, that just had a little bit of heavy meaning to reality to me.
Yep, that one was a little heavy, but that's okay. It's good. All right, what's the last one?
The last one is called Guiding Mick.
We're bound together somehow, in a way that I have yet to understand. Come with us.
That's all nice and weird, but...
Totems, they guide us in strange ways. What if yours guided you to us?
What would you rather do? Hide from Argus your whole life or do something really stupid like time travel?
I'm not a superhero.
Neither am I.
I think that was my personal favorite.
Well, I found it kind of neat that it's Mick that eventually wins her over to come join the team.
Yep.
So that's good. Now we can mac on that crush a little bit.
Exactly. I thought that was very fitting. I like that he talked her into it.
Yeah, and he was actually pretty nice about it too, and made sense. He wasn't, bullheaded, drunken Mick. He was a decent guy in that moment.
Exactly.
All right, what time is it, Arlie?
It's time for feedback.
Feedback.
Holy Twin Powers, activate!
And we did pretty good for feedback this time. Thank you so much, Legendaires, everybody. We're going to start off with an email from Sci-Fi Gene. And he's kind of asking, he says, in a previous season of the show, we learned that the time stream that the ship travels through to get to different timelines flows like a river. So, since it flows like a river, then maybe it's possible to place fixed markers within the time stream that are equipped with special time travel sensors. My theory is that the Time Bureau has created and placed time buoys, I guess I should pronounce it, within different parts of the time stream, and that they use these buoys to actively scan timelines for anachronism. Oh, and that's the first time I've tripped over that word. Actively scan timelines for anachronisms and updating information of the existing anachronisms.
Well, that's very interesting.
That's actually a cool theory. It's very plausible. Yeah, maybe they are. I mean, that would go along with my idea or my questioning them just being able to float up there. It's like they're floating at the entry point.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, like where are they actually floating? Or are they just floating in limbo, basically? Yeah. Interesting.
Well, cool. Thanks for that, Sci-Fi Gene. It's good to hear from you again, too.
Yeah, we haven't heard from him in a while.
No. All right, who we got next?
All right, we have an email from Christy, and she says, do we know what caused Amaya's totem to glow at the same time as Zari's? I think it's just that they're linked together because they're both originate in Zambesi, actually.
Yeah, and she had me thinking about that. When they were glowing at the same time, were they in the same time period?
Yeah, they were, because I think the ship was just docked somewhere at that point because our team was on the ground.
Yeah.
Maybe. I hope.
Okay. But I agree with you. I think now that we know they are actually linked. Well, you know what? We kind of give it away. As TV show viewers, they don't know that they're linked. That's still a mystery, but your research led us to find out that they are linked. So.
Yeah, well, I feel like it's not really like a spoiler or anything because it's already a storyline that we've seen play out in our universe, you know? Oh, so it's kind of like, I feel like it gives you more insight and appreciation, having that background and being able to understand that. Otherwise it's like, okay, wait, why does that even, why would that even matter kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. All
right, so she continues. I enjoyed Sarah's game of chicken with the Time Bureau. That was hilarious. I knew Sarah's nerves of steel would win out. Nate on drugs is the funniest thing I've seen on Legends in a long time. I loved watching him stumble around and blurt out things like, I love broccoli. And Sarah's and Stein's reactions to him were gold.
And I thought you were going to use that one for one of the quotes, too.
I wanted to, but it was just its own quote, and it was hysterical from like the situation. But if I could have just had a whole string of all of Nate's quotes while he was high throughout this episode, that would have been my quote of the week for him. But
awesome.
Anyway, she continues, I really wish Jax hadn't foolishly broken everyone out of prison. That only served to produce a chaotic situation and probably make the anachronism worse.
Yep.
Sort of. Because it wasn't technically an anachronism, but they definitely influenced that future in a big way.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see if they go anywhere after that time period and see what's happened.
Yeah, I agree. Overall, I think this was definitely an improvement over the dumb behavior from last week. Using that drug was also ill-advised, but the outcome was so funny that I didn't mind. Me either.
Good email, Christy. Thank you so much.
That was great. Good stuff.
All right, I'll let you read. We got one in from Green Butterfly. I'll let you read that one too.
Okay. Hi, waving emoji. This is your eye in the sky green butterfly. Oh my goodness, I thought our captain was going to throttle Nate. He was hilarious. Super hilarious. My favorite moment is when Nate thinks they are going super fast and they show the seagull flying by. I think we know what quote she'll vote for.
Oh, that was Price's moment too, yeah.
Okay, so I got a few things I am thinking about. The Water Witch is part of Amaya's bloodline. If we destroy the Water Witch, will that put Mari in jeopardy too? I wonder if the Water Witch is similar to Damien Dark, to remove her totem and remove her power without actually killing her. Well, we know some of these answers.
Okay.
I think destroying her won't really put Mari in jeopardy because Kuasa is her sister. So at this point, everything that's happening is after whatever has happened to Mari in the past, like in Vixen and everything. So right now they kind of coexist in the same time period. They've always existed in the same time period. So destroying her wouldn't necessarily do anything to Mari.
See, and that makes me wonder, we're still missing our Vixen's daughter, because these are her granddaughters or daughter. So I'm led to believe that Kuasa has a different mother or different father. I'm not sure which, but we still, I think if we're going to get the origin of them, we're going to have to see Vixen's actual daughter. We're missing the middle link here.
Well, you do see her.
Okay. In the cartoon again?
In the cartoon.
Oh boy. All right. And they have the same mother and father?
They do.
Huh. Interesting.
Hate to burst your bubble.
Well, it's just because of I think the differences in also in their looks and in their characters. I like, why would they hate each other so much?
That's also in the cartoon.
Okay. All right. Cool.
I highly recommend watching it. It makes this episode make so much more sense. This was just to everybody out there.
Well, then maybe you can add the link into where you were able to find it on the CW Seed to watch it. Yeah, and then people can click on it and find it. You can even
and there's an app on the phone too. I'll put a link to the website, but then I know in the App Store on iPhone there's a CW Seed app. I would assume it's also in Google Play.
And is it free to watch?
It is free. Okay. There are commercials. It takes an hour to watch both seasons with commercials, because that's what I did today. So.
Okay. Maybe you can even link it in our Facebook page too.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Back to Butterfly.
Yes. Okay. Then I was thinking about the picture discussion on last week's podcast. So they brought the picture of Oliver, Laurel, and Sarah to our attention last week. I'm wondering, is Ava will try to use Oliver as leverage to control Sarah?
Yeah.
He is a public figure and should be easy to find. If she goes for Laurel, quote unquote, then she will get more than she bargained for in Black Siren. That would be hilarious, and I need to see that happen now.
Oh, yeah.
Agent Sharpe is involved in time travel, but is she aware of the multiverse? Ooh.
Huh.
Now that's fascinating. Either way, I think Ava Sharpe will be looking for a way to control our captain. She's playing chicken with the Waverider after all. I love you, Sarah, but that was a crazy move. 8 out of 10 Adam Tales. Have a super week. Love, Green Butterfly.
Yeah, good propositions there and some ideas.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
I need to see that happen. That's hilarious.
Jeez. Awesome. Well, thanks as always, Green Butterfly. Moving on, we got one voicemail in this week, and it's from somebody I think I know. Patty Spivot, perhaps?
Hey, Flash and Harley, it's Patty Spivot calling in. Oh, so much better this week, right? I kind of feel like saying, we back, baby, like they were all about on the Flash episodes the last couple of weeks. I thought the dynamics were great. They had some more serious tones. The action was more intense. And I actually laughed out loud legit, not because of the physical, silly, bumbling comedy, but because it was super funny. Like, especially Mick and of course Nate. That was just funny, just straight up funny. So I can't wait to hear your quotes, because as we were watching the episode, I kept elbowing the Flash beside me and saying, oh, there's quote number 1. Oh, there's quote number 2. Oh, I'm voting for that one. Yeah, I totally like it better when the show has a real crisis to deal with and they're doing their actual team legends kick butt stuff, but the writers put in a little fun light storyline to intertwine throughout the episode. I love it when they do that. It's just, I think it makes the show as special as it is. When they deviate from that, things seem to fall apart. So in terms of the actual episode, I'm really, really interested to see how Kuasa and Zari and Amaya are all connected, because they seem to be through these amulets. So I don't know about the other comic books, like Vixen has been referenced a few times and stuff, so I don't really know about those. But I'm liking the mysterious little drops of information that they're adding in. So I'm looking forward to that storyline as the season goes on. I totally felt bad for Nate though. He was clearly trying to help Amaya and he came up with this great idea, which turned out to save the day. And he was kind of looking for some maybe relationship connection back from her, and he totally didn't get it. She was just off fighting her people and doing her thing and didn't even really say thank you, I didn't think. But all of that was great. I have a daughter, so when Amaya realized that she couldn't control her amulet by being fearful, it totally reminded me of the movie Frozen. Disney, of course, and the song Let It Go was stuck in my head for a couple days after the episode, which it's been stuck in my head way too much over the years, but it came back because it was a really similar theme. I'm kind of hoping that they stop with the whole legends trying to take stuff on themselves and then getting in trouble with the Time Bureau thing. The Time Bureau keeps swooping in like a annoyed parent with their empty threats. So I hope they kind of quit doing that, because it's been every episode so far. Either work together or don't or whatever, but enough with the whole, Sharpe coming in, scolding Sarah, and Sarah, being defiant and standing up to her. Like, we've seen it, it's good, like, let's carry on now with the plot. So other than that, I think overall super great episode, kind of back to normal, back to what we love to see, and I'm really, really happy that it went that way this week. So looking forward to the podcast, guys, and we'll talk to you soon.
That was fantastic, and that song is now stuck in my head.
Well, I think after this episode of our show, she is now sat down in your professor's room, and you've taught her all about Kuasa, so she should have all her answers.
She should also go watch Vixen.
Yeah, we'll have to sit down and watch it together, I think.
There you go.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Patty. As always, wonderful to hear your voice on our show. All right, we got one last email from ArcPhase, and he says, "Greetings, Wonder Twins. Interesting that there is an anti-metahumans act in the future. What would have happened to the Team Flash with Argus capturing and experimenting metahumans? Something really bad must have happened for Argus to step out from the shadows and make metahumans illegal." Yeah, good point.
That's the question.
That is the question. I also wonder why no one was looking for Gary the whole time. I would have thought the time agents would pop up on the ship and grab him.
Right?
Good. Yeah, that's a good point. Perhaps they can't track him and he has to provide his location back to HQ. Also, with his fancy watch, couldn't he have slipped back into the Bureau or their time ship?
We did at the end.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Plot devices there. You got to keep Gary around.
Mm-hmm.
It was really funny. It was a really funny episode seeing Nate tripping out while Amaya was on her vision quest. It was weird, though, that despite the effects wearing off on Amaya, Nate was still hallucinating. How much did he end up drinking before giving Amaya her cup? Yeah, exactly. Or the fact that he's never had it before, she perhaps has.
That's true, yeah.
It's pretty awesome seeing another mystical power holder. I remember from watching the Vixen shorts that there were 5 totems. Here we go.
Uh-huh.
Perhaps Zari's totem is also one of the 5, and we'll see the remaining totems throughout the series. They could also be the key to stopping our unknown big bad, which could also be the reason Kuasa was brought to find Zari's totem.
That's part of, sorry, I'm going to interject. That's part of what I think would be interesting to see is how much they keep canon from the Vixen animated series.
Yeah.
Because 2 of them have already been destroyed.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Well, I mean, it is all linked. Flash and Arrow were both on the first season of Vixen, so...
They were, and she's come into the real world onto all of our shows.
She was in Arrow, yeah, exactly. So, interesting. All right, well, he finishes off. Looks like we're going back to Ivytown in 1988 to see a young Ray Palmer next week, but I wonder who or what could be that he meets. More mysteries to find out next week from ArcPhase. Yeah, good points, ArcPhase, and thanks for sending those in, as always.
Yep, lots of great feedback this week.
Yeah, thanks to everybody. And I just want to make a little request, maybe. We love hearing from everybody, and we love hearing from our regulars. I would like to hear from some of our other listeners out there. As I said, we've got over 200 people listening. We know that for a fact. And we've got over 200 people on the Facebook page. So let's get some more feedback. We're going to hear from some new people out there, too.
Yeah, don't be shy. It's fun to hear your stuff on the podcast.
Yeah, and if you aren't sure how to do it, here's how.
If you would like to be a part of the show, you can send in your feedback to tomorrowslegends@gmail.com. That's spelt with 1 R. You can also reach us on Twitter @tomorrowslegends, also with 1 R. We'd love you to join our Facebook page at facebook.com/groups/tomorrowslegends and become part of the community.
All right, Harley. Hopefully we are back at the point of getting back on track. Hopefully that episode was the turning point.
That's what I'm hoping too. It was promising and it was good. So hopefully we keep going from there.
Yeah, but it makes me wonder what happens if it's in the writing room and they write an episode, think they've got something that's great and funny, and then it's just a bad director that can't put it together, or do they just... It just makes me wonder, why do we end up with such an awful episode that we had last week? I don't know.
I don't know.
But hopefully it continues, and we're excited to be back. We will come back at you next week with our thoughts. This is The Flash, signing off.
And this is Harley Quinn. I'm out.
Tomorrow's Legends is not affiliated with CBS, Warner Brothers, or the CW. We're a fan-made podcast for entertainment purposes only and are part of the Cybercast Network. Find our podcast in iTunes. You can leave us a rating and review. We'd love that. As well, we can now be found in Google Play Music.